My name's Peter Charleston. I'd like to introduce you to some of what the Thrive Learning Centre offers. And in this preview webinar, I'd like to talk to you about consciousness in particular and why improving your consciousness is so important to your life. So I'm going to share my screen with you and just take you through a few slides to highlight what I mean by consciousness and why it's so important. This will take about 10 minutes, and I hope you get something out of me sharing this information. This course is available on my website. Anyone who wants to give me their email address, I will give you this for free. So I'm a psychologist by trade. I've been have been for about 28 years now, have degrees in psychology and business. So I combine personal and professional development in most of the services I offer. I have been a staff psychologist in a major hospital for 10 years of my career and published one book so far and several more to come once I get a bit of time. So more about me later. That's enough for now. What I'd like to start with is some of the things I've learned about human beings over the last 30 years. We're all wounded in some way, yet we're capable of such healing of those wounds. And the healing of wounds has a lot to do with reaching our potential as human beings. I'm talking a lot about mental and emotional wounds, which unfortunately, when they're not healed, get in the way of us achieving and reaching our potential. We also tend to be dramatic and overanalyze things, particularly ourselves and situations we're in. We think we're logical creatures, but we're quite irrational and driven by emotion. We also tend to be unreliable and vulnerable, yet capable of so much more, capable of high self-discipline, capable of having power in our lives. We tend to expect way too much or too little, which gives us an indication of where our confidence and self-worth is at. And expectations are sometimes a main factor in how we sabotage ourselves. We're not half as conscious as we need to be to reach our potential. I think because we just don't value our own personal learning enough. We tend to suffer from not enough ego or too much ego. We tend to be full of fear, and that's what gets in the way of achievement. And we attempt to solve our personal problems with external solutions, such as money, job, partner, status, power, fame, that sort of thing. Yet none of these actually provide solutions to our internal problems, which is why I strongly believe that our psychology skills are so important to learn. And we tend to be way too self-interested and self-absorbed, yet we have so much more potential to go beyond ourselves and to take more responsibility for what's happening around us. So that is part of the problem, but also I'm highlighting our potential as well. Now, have a think about what I've got on this slide. Do you feel like you're struggling in survival mode in life? And how often do you feel this way, that your day or week is a struggle? This tends to be because of our poor psychology and our lack of psychological skills. And there are 5 categories I've come up with that highlight what those skills are. So we tend to be unorganized and have poor behavioral habits. We tend to procrastinate and get distracted in our minds, our mental habits. We tend to get overwhelmed by our emotions and we're unable to cope with stressful situations and demands on us. That reflects our emotional habits. And we tend to lack resources and support, which is to do with our interpersonal habits. And 5th, but probably most important, is that we tend to have poor self-awareness, which is the topic of today's talk, that if we can increase our consciousness, then we can actually improve each of those different skills and habits that I've just mentioned. So self-awareness actually comes first before we can learn the other skills. More about that later. So what I'm getting at is that we tend to spend our lives in the dark, as in not conscious enough of how our minds work, what our habits are like, how we perceive situations. There's all sorts of psychological skills that we don't harness and become better at. So our lives are a bit like this picture that we tend to live blindfolded, as if we're walking down a dark corridor, fumbling as we go, not realizing how many options and choices we have in that corridor. Imagine a corridor full of doors that we could open or not, that we could go inside and discover what's behind them. So for a lot of us, our lives are spent in indecision and fear and not making the most of the opportunities we get. We go past the doors that we should open. We open the doors that we shouldn't really open, etc., etc. So there's part of the problem. I think we need to be more conscious. If we're only aware of a small aspect of our own lives, then we literally operate on autopilot most of the time. So autopilot meaning that we're at the mercy of the habits that we've learnt, usually in our upbringing. And for most of us, those habits, some are good, some are not so healthy. And generally speaking, I don't think we should rely on what we've learnt in the first decade of our lives. So what can we do about it? Well, psychological habits. Here's where my concept of psychological skills come into play. If we can become more aware of our psychology, we can become better at it. So let's talk a little bit more about that as we go. What is consciousness? Well, if we function on autopilot most of the time, we tend not to be making the most out of our lives. It may be easier to live life without questioning things or without reflecting on our behavior or how our minds work. But if we go through life taking little notice of what's going on around us, I don't think we make the most of it. Here's a quote to consider. The most loving thing you can do is take care of your own business. So as we take care of our psychology, the impact we have on other people improves. Your purpose in life is to actually be more conscious, because everything flows from that. Your achievements, the quality of your relationships, everything flows from your own personal development. Here's another quote to consider. Our main task in life is to develop ourselves, to become what we potentially are. The most important product of this effort is our own personality. So what I'm getting at here is that our personality is not stuck in stone. It's not static, it's dynamic. It can change and develop as we go through life. And the Thrive Learning Center is full of learnings and about skills that help you make the most out of this life and help you develop. So have a look at this picture. Think about the way we perceive any situation. So take this simple picture. Do you see a duck's head? Do you see a rabbit? Or can you actually see both? What I'm getting at here is that we tend to mistake what we see as our whole reality, whereas often we only see one piece of reality. Well, some people only see the duck. Some people only see the rabbit. But if that's the case, then we're missing a whole lot of different ways of looking at things. Many people, in other words, are trapped in their own mindsets. The way we're programmed actually often narrows our mind. How conscious do you think you are? How open do you think your mind is? For anyone to excel at anything, we need a high degree of self-awareness and psychological skills, the ability to manage our own psychology. These are the two things that significantly improve our chances of being happy and successful. Here's another quote to consider. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you'll find strength. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So the Thrive Learning Center is all about increasing your inner strength, your psychological skills. Think about what you attend to. What do you filter in to your mind and what do you leave out? We all select what's important to us. This has a major impact on how we function on a daily basis. So part of increasing our consciousness is becoming more aware of what we filter in and what we filter out, and whether that's actually helping us reach our goals or not. So what we attend to is actually crucial for the way our psychology operates. So think about, for instance, how often you attend to a goal that you're trying to reach versus things that have nothing to do with the goals that you've set for yourself. A lot of people get distracted by things that don't actually mean much to them. So that's a little bit about what my version of consciousness is. And hopefully that gives you a bit of food for thought about the way your mind works, what you attend to, and just how conscious you are in any given situation. So the Thrive Center is a treasure trove of courses that you can take and choose a range of topics on personal development as well as professional development. Each one is 30 minutes or less. It involves a webinar and a workbook that you can work through, and which involves reflective practices and exercises so that you can actually allow the knowledge to sink in and implement it. So it also involves group coaching and a whole community of support and feedback. So you'll get ideas and suggestions from participants as well as myself as you go through the course. So you don't do this alone. This learning journey, if you like, is one that's quite interactive, but you get to choose how much you interact or not. So if you get a chance, please have a look at my courses page on the website and have a look through the free webinars to start with, such as this one. I hope you've got something out of today, and see you again soon.